fallacies of XML that we point out all the time is XML is an open standard, which means you can create standards in it, right? BizTalk is a standard, for instance, right? But it's the DTL, it's the definition of something written in XML. We don't have a standard for what a document is. We don't have a standard definition of metadata about a document. Always looks like this, right? And so, you know, there are issues that continue to, you know, that need to be dealt with. But from the standpoint, you know, and that's if you're looking at the world becoming more explicit through the content, right? If you're trying to go back to that question of do I tag it or not tag it, if I'm looking at content standards, I'm now making the choice that I really want my content touched and I want those tags to reside with content. But all the stuff that's not tagged, right? I mean, that gives me a very limited view. If I've got a 500-page document and I've got, you know, half a page of meta tags, there's a lot of information that I've decided is not useful. Right? The pattern recognition side of the world doesn't believe that, right? They believe that the whole corpus of the document has a you know, fingerprint, and I want to be able to match, you know, what's the closest fingerprint to the fingerprint that I'm looking at right now, and that may not have been picked up by the metadata and explicitly described in the terms that I'm using. You know, I think going back to the, you know, the international side, I see this being right now very much focused on how does this apply to work, and it will be, in, as I said, in niches perhaps that people may use other things. Let me just go through the open issues. I know we're running probably well past time.
You're okay.
I don't know what your time frame is.
We can't stay till tomorrow.
Okay. Context shifting. Trying to figure out where the clues are coming from, what you're working in, how to pick those up. I think that's an open issue that we have to deal with. Trust is an issue. I'll come back to that in a moment. You know, how do you trust people? How do you decide as you look at the development of kind of the openness of this stuff is about me and you want somebody to ping you who may not know you? How do you decide how to trust them? How do you stay anonymous so that they're kind of suggesting that they want to talk to you and you make the choice of if you talk to them or not? And so that deals with anonymity and privacy. And what kind of information? I mean, tacit knowledge systems, for instance, will mine everything that you're doing and present you, as the end user, with a list of all the stuff that you're supposed to know about. And if you've spent a bunch of time checking out, and I apologize, the Dodgers scores and the standings in the National League West, I will show up as an expert, or at least having an affinity with the Dodgers or with baseball. And I can probably tell you, you know, how to find the standings at least, right? I don't want to tell the world that, you know, I don't want that to show up in an expertise search, so I don't check that one off, right? And as you can imagine, based on what kind of content is on the internet, God only knows what you could end up on that list, and you want to keep that very close. These are the areas that we've identified as the key places that development work needs to happen. Collaborative components. Very clearly, we just put out a piece that said this was moving. This is an area that is moving toward a platform. I think we are going to see market consolidation. It's been around for quite some time, and I think we're going to end up with these three names being the dominant ones. You may question the third one, but they're making huge investments now to catch up, and they're in the process of releasing their second collaboration suite product. This list is not exhaustive. We are now talking about 50 companies that are in this pattern recognition / semantic analysis and other things. These have not been the focus of the conversation tonight, but I've touched on them. These are companies, identity management, universal repository, workflow, and rules and portals that are also going to impinge on this. This list is not based on the size of the company or anything else. It's kind of the goodness of fit to the idea of adaptive workspaces and the kind of investments we've seen these companies make. This list will shift constantly over the next several years. So let me take a little bit of a leap aside and talk about, I guess, somewhat to the point of what does this do in terms of leveraging the world. Because Howard Ringgold recently did a book, I don't know if any of you have seen Smart Mobs. I'll reference some of the ideas in there. That we identify reputation. And how do we use reputation when we're talking about a mobile, worldwide connected world, right? So I now have a reputation. One of the best reputation systems is on eBay. And you go to eBay and you really know if you want to do business with that person, right? Now, if I go to Yahoo and I see somebody saying, "Hi, I want to join your," or MSN. I think I get more spam from MSN instant messaging, right? "Hi, come and see my website." They usually give you some URL that tells them that you really don't want to go there, but they may invite you, and you don't trust that person, and therefore you decline them. But wouldn't it be nice if the reputation stuff was available to you, right? It wasn't just their profile, because a profile is something that you can make up. And as you know, people have various personas on the internet that are not necessarily related to who they really are. So they do have personal profiles. And then you have content, the stuff that you've created under your name. And you have interests that you have, and you have competencies that are expressed in that, because you may be writing or asking questions about something you don't know about, which shows an interest, and you have competencies based on your publishing, and other people are referencing your information. And then there's the trust piece, right? There's the piece of these people trust my reputation and trust me, and therefore that enhances my reputation. And the experience of others with me, right? So I have people who have explicitly said they trust me based on their affiliation with me, and then people who are expressing an opinion as well. And so when we talk about using reputation, we think that's going to be something that is going to be manifest in the consumer world prior to being shown in the commercial world, right? So we are seeing in Japan, for instance, bars where you have a little box that has a light on it, and that light represents your profile. If it's orange and the light's on, and mine's orange and the light's on, we might be a good match to talk to each other, right? So it picks up profiles. We're going to see this stuff built into cell phones. And we're going to see all these kind of reputation things so that I can actually walk up and go, oh, let's see, I've got Bluetooth, there's some kind of proximity network, and I've never met you before, but 3 of my friends know you, right? So it's cross-reference. It's used the pattern recognition stuff, and it's cross-reference. 3 of my friends know you, and you seem to have a pretty good reputation with them, so you're somebody who's trustworthy to me, right? I trust them, they trust you, So those kinds of things are going to be using this kind of technology, I think, prior to some of the wide deployment in the enterprise. When we talk about smart mobs, or when I mentioned the smart mobs, when you look at a crowd like this, think about these capabilities, and this is just a strange example, but think about these capabilities in terms of managing a large event, some kind of demonstration. I think Martin Sheen is probably down here someplace. And so you've got this you could think about this in the negative way of, let's all march down this street and raid all these stores, or you can say, this is a really boring march, and down the next block there's a chocolate store, and I notice on my phone that there are 10 or 20 of you that seem to like chocolate. I'm now anonymously pinging you, right? I'm sending out to the virtual chocolate list. Guys, why don't we go over to Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory and grab a snack, because I'm bored with this thing. That kind of thing can happen, right? I mean, it's using these same kind of technologies, and we're seeing some of this happening in Scandinavia, in Japan, where they're using these kinds of technologies early on with some of with the phone companies. And I think we're going to see more of this. So again, this was the good side of it. You can, of course, look at the negative side and the management of this crowd for whatever purpose it was originally doing, and it may be for good or ill. And so that's the mob. The other piece is trusting stuff based on physical location. So if I go to a restaurant, and again, I have my personal device of some sort, my friends have shown up. I'm now not talking about a person, I'm talking about a physical place. And it is going, oh, look, my GPS says I'm here, this physical place is associated with this restaurant, and it's a trusted member list for Rasmus, 7 visits last year. For me, I'm on somebody else's list. I've been to this restaurant 7 times, I didn't leave, I ate dinner there. I may have even given some kind of explicit graffiti in cyberspace that's associated with this location that shows a positive reaction to the restaurant, and I can see that as I go to the restaurant, right? So I can pick up the trusted members of my community and their leadings in cyberspace related to different locations. So again, I think this is all related to clues in the environment, places that we can pick up stuff and use pattern recognition technology to do consumer kinds of things as well. So if we talk about this now from the vision standpoint, about the technology side, a couple things that I think we're going to start seeing, and I think we're going to see some rewrites when we talk about the file system. I think Microsoft is going to, as we go forward, they've been pretty explicit that the underlying data for Windows is going to be relational databases. Oracle's already done that with their collaboration suite and their universal file system. IBM is moving the same way with DB2 being the underpinnings of everything, from the collaboration products to their content management products to everything else. But then we have the issue of this thing, right? So I write some information on here, and the enterprise doesn't know about this. Right? So I now have to synchronize this, and all this does right now is synchronizes a big blob called backup on my machine, or it puts a folder on there. The idea that I had earlier of content synchronization, right? So I may create something on here, I don't mark it private, it gets syndicated up to the network. And if we think about the reputations and other things of showing interest, sometimes it's just explicit lists, right? I have my list of, let's take music for instance. If I've got my metadata about the songs that I own, I'm not sharing and never have shared my music with anybody or downloaded anything. Anyway, but I have a list, right? The list is okay. I can share my list with you, right? So if you say, gee, I was listening to some music that in Dan's car the other day on a CD that he burned. Let me go look at his list and see what kind of groups he likes, right? And so I'm increasing the reputation to some degree of those groups by me being affiliated with them if you like the music you heard in my car. And so, I can see these lists of, what are you reading, what kinds of content have you published, and other things as being part of the promotion of content. And I think this is where peer-to-peer comes in to some degree, is we're going to see a shift, and we can have a side conversation with the database folks on what this means in terms of peer-to-peer was originally brought in as a collaborative technology, right? That's really not where it's really distributed databases is what the underlying stuff is. It's the replication of information between databases. It's not the collaborative layer. Groove got a lot of peer-to-peer play because it created a collaboration platform on top of this replication model. But to me, the replication model is actually more important than the Groove implementation. And so I think we'll see systems replicating information and managing the pointers and the relationships between different versions of content. And we'll end up with content caches and indexes and other things as we go forward that are going to start managing the content piece. And then we have the people issue, right? So I want to stay anonymous, and one of the examples is, Bill Gates walks into a room, and if he has reputation and his profile is online, he's broadcasting whatever his personal device is, and he walks into this room, and all of our alarms go up and say, if anybody famous shows up, give me an alert. Right? And we go, oh, Bill Gates is here. Oh, we all know what Bill looks like, and we all migrate to Bill. Right? Bill wants to be anonymous. Bill wants to walk into a room, and it may just say, software geek walks into a room. Right? I saw a great internal video from Microsoft recently. It was kind of their internal humor, but it was Bill Gates was being interviewed about the internet. And it started off with, says, Internet Pioneer. And then they shifted off to Mark Andreessen, and Bill was sitting there first, and he was saying, yeah, we understood the internet. We were right there at the beginning. And then Andreessen was talking, and then they went back to Gates, and Gates says, yeah, we figured out the internet as soon as everybody else did. We were right there with them. And then it said Internet Pioneer, not. But if we think about, just walking in and having an anonymous thing, gee, there's somebody who knows something. They're not the richest man in the world. They're not the chief technical officer of Microsoft or the chairman of the board. They're just, an internet-savvy person that I can have a conversation with. Let me ping them and have that conversation and ask if they're willing to talk to me. So my dislikes, my likes, my preferences, and other things are going to manifest